Hello, everyone, and welcome to how to create your own name in brackets author website. Now, I say in brackets author because all the search engines, all the chat engines, they want to know who has written the content. And why would you create a website unless you're wanting to be acknowledged for the content that you want out there? And of course, if you are an author, then I believe you should have your own name website. So that's also important as well. So I am going to try and get through a lot of information in 30 minutes, specific tips, relevant examples, and I encourage you to think of 3 things from this presentation that you can do within the next 3 hours or within the next 3 days, because otherwise it's been a lovely experience, but not necessarily anything actually achieved. So for those of you who don't know me, my career started off in banking, 11 years at Westpac in Adelaide before I moved to Melbourne, and I launched my first website in 2001. I'm a member of all these organisations, and there's lots more information about me on my website, as well as my services and pricing. But the thing I wanted to mention today is I've previously been a teacher or tutor at the Centre for Adult Education. And I used to run a course called How to Create a Simple WordPress Website that took 2 days. And I'm now trying to condense that information into 30 minutes. So hang on to your hats. There's a lot of information, and the slides are here to really help you go through this process either on your own or with some help in the future. So I'm going to talk about how to choose and register a domain name so that it stays in your control. Don't just trust someone with all this precious information that you have, which platform you could use to develop and publish your website, whether you're going to do it yourself or hire a website designer or some sort of hybrid model, and how to search engine optimize it whilst you're developing it. I get very scared when I hear people say they paid for a website and then they had to pay for it to be search engine optimized. It should actually be built in a search engine optimized way, and I'll discuss that as well. Now, there are 3 websites I'm just going to quickly mention. These are all websites that I have built using WordPress. And TimothyHipworth.com is a professional who's currently based in India, who's an Australian living and working overseas, and he wanted a website just in his own name to complement his LinkedIn profile. So it's literally a 3 or 4 page website, a home, about, contact page with a blog section. He's written 2 blog articles. So that's where you can really start. LaurieSmale.com is on the call, and I'm sure he'll be happy to contribute some thoughts at some point, but he is an author, and we have gone from woe to go, bringing off all his content from an old website and putting it into a new one. And then this ridiculously long one here, that's the home page, it's got all that information on it, is my own website, SueEllson.com. And that's for me as a consultant, trainer, expert, whatever, as well as an author. So there's, the 3 types of levels of websites that you can build. So what are your options with a website? You can outsource it entirely. And a story I often tell is the story of a person who was working at a prestigious university and got a nice big package when she left, and then went out to a web designer and paid $20,000 for a brochure-style website that generated absolutely nothing for her. And then she came along to the CAE course and she wanted to learn how to edit it, but of course it wasn't even built in WordPress. So I don't want you to do that, basically, is what I'm saying. That's extremely dangerous for a first edition website. I'm always of the belief you start small and you build up over time as your income increases. Now, if you do everything yourself entirely, it's going to be very time consuming. You might never actually do it. You'll make a few mistakes. But if you're handy, you can definitely give it a go, and I'll give you some options for that. And the third option is to manage it with some help with a trusted local partner. So a lot of people think, oh, it'll be cheaper if I outsource it to a foreign country. Well, the issue is they don't have the same regulations in a foreign country. They may be able to speak English but not understand the cultural nuances of the location where you're based. And I would rather pay a local person that I can speak to, meet in person, and trust, because they are abiding by the same government regulations of privacy, intellectual property, spam, or all those kind of things. So one of my clients, I built her website, and then she went off and got somebody from a foreign country to change it, and she lost a lot of her rankings. So you just got to be really, really careful. You must understand what you are paying for. Another client got a quote, paid off in stages, and when the website went live, she didn't go back and check the quote to make sure that all of the things were done. And what we found was a lot of the things that were in the quote were never actually completed. But because the website went live, she paid the last installment and never got those things done and had to pay extra to have them done later. So there's lots of little mistakes that can be made. So I have written an article that summarizes a lot of this, called How Much Should I Pay for a Website and What Should Be Included in the Design Proposal. So that's definitely an option for you to learn a little bit more about that. So these are all the things I'm going to cover today. 15 points. So this is about 30 seconds or less for each slide. Everybody who attends will get access to these files. I run a LinkedIn workshop where you can work on your LinkedIn profile on a Saturday here in Melbourne, in Canterbury, that you're welcome to come along. And you can also keep up to date with me on social media. I write the numbers in for each presentation I do. So if you go back and look at any others, you can see how my network has increased over time. And I'm also the author of 5 books. Now, some of you who registered via Eventbrite purchased all 5 of my books when you booked, so I will be sending out those books this afternoon. And if anybody else would like all 5 digital books, just email me and I'll happily send them to you for that price as well. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we are all based. This presentation is for everyone. You don't have to leave your camera on, but you can if you wish. And put your questions in the chat at any time. I'd love to know what's most helpful to you at the end. If you're watching this after the event, some screens may have changed. Don't worry, the strategy will still be the same. And I do encourage you to say thank you, because it's at least 10 hours of work that I put into each one of these, so I can pack in the most information in 30 minutes. So you can buy a book, follow me on social media, if we're connected on LinkedIn, endorse or recommend me, or you can do a Facebook or Google review. And I've got some QR codes for that at the end. So first of all, where are you at right now? Do you have a website? No website, but still got some social media? Maybe you've got a basic existing website and social media. Maybe you've already got your own name website and good quality social media profiles, or you're at some other stage. So just if you can pop in the chat where you're at the moment, that'll just give me some clues as to where people mostly are. Mostly 2s. No website. All right, so you're brand new to the website idea. Okay, someone's got a basic website and no website or significant social media. Right, okay, so most of you are starting from the point 0, so good, excellent. Well done on being brave enough to listen to this, because there's going to be a lot of technical information. Don't forget, it is being recorded, so you can actually listen to it again afterwards and go through the steps again. And if for any reason the recording doesn't work, I'll simply re-record. Okay, what is your main goal as a result of creating and publishing your own name website? So do you want to build a personal brand? Are you trying to promote and sell services or goods? Are you wanting to attract job or business opportunities? Would you like to share your content to as many people as possible? I was working with a lady yesterday who found me via the Australian Society of Authors, and she is trying to publish the poetry of a dead relative who died in traumatic circumstances. And to be honest, the best way to get that poetry to as many people as possible is with a website that every page is then put in archive.org. So after she dies as well, there'll be a record of this person's poetry. So, there are many benefits to having a website even before you write a book. And also, if you do write a book, it's great to have an audience of people who love your work. So we've got lots of A's. Oh, Genevieve's ambitious. She's going for lots there. Thank you. I love it. F, share your content with, yeah, and it's so exciting to be able to share your content with the world. Like, I know a lot of people who have the traditional model. I'm not putting it until it's in my own book that's been traditionally published. And of course, unless someone buys that book, they never see the work. And I would rather, I'm not worried about copyright, borrow my content, put it wherever you like. I'm fine with that because I would like to share my messages with a much wider audience. So yeah, and of course I don't believe my children are particularly interested in my content, so therefore I put everything on archive.org. So perhaps my great grandchildren might be interested in something that I did in, you know, centuries to come, if the planet still exists, of course, with climate change. But nevertheless, onwards I go. And in the meantime, one of my pieces of content, which is a domestic violence poem, has had at least 3,000 views. So I know my heart of hearts that's reaching people and hopefully giving them some comfort if they've been in that situation. Okay, so up until now, who has been mostly responsible for building and managing a website if you do have one, or if you're planning to build one? You, a website developer, a digital agency, an in-house person, an external provider, or somebody else? Me, yes, Robin. Yeah, mostly you. Okay, great. All right. We're on the right track. So at the start of a website project, this is what I think most people imagine: a beautiful website on a desktop computer, a laptop and a mobile phone, and it looks sensational and it's got all the bells and whistles of everything you ever imagined. Somewhere in the middle, you realize, oh my goodness, this is a whole lot more work than I ever thought possible. And you actually have to get lots of people involved and you have to get more information. And let me tell you, the number one reason websites don't get built is because the content has not been provided to the website developer. How can the website developer build a website unless they have the content? And then by the end of this process, you're thinking, oh my God, can we please just get the damn thing published? Because it's, you know, it's been a tiresome process. So with a bit of planning and preparation, hopefully that will not be the case for those of you who are embarking on it. So as a digital mentor, I can help. Laurie's here. He can tell you what the process has been like. As I said, he had an old website. We've put it onto his own name website. We've put him on Magic Minutes on TikTok and YouTube, and all his videos go everywhere. He's been guest speaking at the City of Berendara and the Busy Bird Publishing open mic nights. He puts out quotes. He does a whole bunch of things. So he's my star student, and I love working with Laurie on an ongoing basis. So as I said, these are the 15 things we're going to go through. So the number one thing that you're going to have to do, Indrani's asked a quick question. I'll quickly answer this. What advantages would a website have over a blog site? So a blog site is just a whole bunch of different articles, where a website has a little bit more structure and you can have a blog section in it. So I'm not saying don't have a blog, because we want you to keep adding content to your website, but I prefer a website because it is more likely to be found for your name than just a blog, which is just continual pieces of content being added. Like you can have a blog on medium.com. You can write blog articles on LinkedIn if you want to. But I prefer a website which you own, you manage, and you can determine what goes on there. So great question. Thank you, Indrani. So if you're going to go on this process, you've got to keep a list of all your logins for all of the accounts that you will end up having to create. And I do it in an Excel spreadsheet that is password protected. So don't put it on scraps of paper or in a notebook or whatever, because at different times, other people are going to need the logins. And then when they finish the work, you're going to have to change the login details. So you need to be systemized about that. It's absolutely vital. You've got to think about what you're trying to achieve, who you want to reach, and what you want them to do. If somebody lands on your website and they don't know what to do, that's a problem. So all the design in the world is pointless if somebody arrives there and says, I don't know what's going on, and they bounce back into search results, which is called a high bounce rate. Who will be involved in the process and what will they do? And please consider starting with a minimum viable product. If it's a one-page website and it's got your photo on and a few contact details, that's enough to get started. You don't need mega stuff to get going. And sometimes if you buy a domain name, you can get a little one-page website for free at the same time. So, you could definitely do that. 80% is good enough. No technology solution will ever be perfect. So don't say, I want purple and green with a button on the top right and it's got to be this size. Like, it's just not worth it. Just get something up and then build on it over time. Version 1, version 2, version 3, as you develop your skills along the way. If you look at my original website and then what it looks like now, they're two completely different things. So that's fine. You just get something up. Something is better than nothing. Start with something you can build on, which is why I recommend WordPress, because you can just continually build and make it bigger and better with more features as time goes on. Genevieve's asked, what do you mean by reference to logins? So when you create a social media account, for instance, even a Facebook account, you have an email address you've used and a login password that you've got to type in to access your account. So all your social media accounts, your website hosting, whatever. And yes, Rita, it is wordpress.org that I recommend, but I will be talking about wordpress.com as well. Don't assume that you will not be hacked. It's just a case of when, not if. So you need to have a backup process in place, and you need to make sure you've got a way of making sure everything is done if you're getting somebody else to do it for you. And you also need to test it. The number of websites I go into and you click to buy the book and it doesn't work. You've got to test it. WordPress.org is what I recommend. If you're using WordPress.org, the website cost will depend on where you're having the website hosted. So here in Australia, it's about $100 a year for one website. Whereas if you purchase something like Wix or Weebly, it's going to be a monthly fee, which is going to be a lot more than $100 a year. So this article goes into what to do before you speak to a website designer, so feel free to check that out. Now, some people want to go under a business name, and I recommend if you're an author or you're trying to build your brand, or even if you've got a business, you still have a website that is in your own name, because at some point you won't be part of that business. So you need to buy the domain name yourself. I also purchase domain names for my children, and I recommend that you use one company for the domain name and a different company for the actual hosting of the website. Because if you buy it with the same company and you don't like what's happening, you can't move your hosting as easily to another provider. So that's why I purchase my domain names through crazydomains.com.au. I'm not getting any commission or money out of that, but I've just started there and I've, found it okay. They've got, very responsive on chat, so that's all good. And when you buy a domain name, they'll try and sell you SueEllson.com, SueEllson.co.uk, SueEllson.com.au, SueEllson.net. They'll try and sell you all the other versions. You don't need them. You just need one. And there's no point purchasing all those others. But what you do need to do is purchase something called either domain name privacy or private registration. So what that means is if somebody looks up who owns the domain name georgesmith.com, it will not tell you which George Smith owns it, and it reduces your spam. So that's why it's only about $10 a year to pay for that. So it's not a lot of extra money, but definitely worthwhile. And if yourname.com is not available, there are plenty of others, .co, .net, .au, .online. There's heaps of them. So don't worry. You can just pick one of the other ones. Don't pick an expensive one. Just pick another one. And one of my students was a guy called Steve Martin. And let me assure you, most of the Steve Martins had been taken. But because he was an accountant, he developed a spreadsheet and he worked out the cost of each one. And he still couldn't decide which Steve Martin dot something he was going to purchase. So that was kind of funny, I thought. But, there's plenty of other options if .com is not available. And you can purchase this well before you start building your website. So if you buy it now for your children and they don't build their own website for another 10 years, no big deal. When they do, it will be a 10-year-old website and nobody else can pinch that domain name. But again, don't buy multiple versions. Now, the next thing is as I mentioned, use WordPress.org and I pay for website hosting. And I originally had my website hosting through a company in the US who allowed me unlimited websites and unlimited space. But over time, it got hacked and I didn't have personal support. So I now use a company called ddns.com.au, which is based here in Melbourne in Australia, and I can ring them up and talk to a person in Australia. It is fantastic and I love them and I recommend all my clients go there as well. Again, I don't get any commission for that, but I found them to be extremely reliable, extremely responsive, and so nice to be able to talk to someone on the phone if you need to, but they also have a ticket system as well if you want to do that. You can also start just with a free website builder. So sometimes, like Crazy Domains or others, will offer you a one-page website that you can build just in their little free website builder, and you can just start that way. So I did that with a guy called Fraser King, and unfortunately he deleted his website because he's decided a music career wasn't going to work for him. But anyway, it is possible just to have like a little one-pager if you want. Now, the other option is you can go to WordPress.com. So if those of you who don't want to spend any money, and let's say you're doing a family history, you can go to WordPress.com and create a free website that is never deleted, and you can call it your name, if it's available, .wordpress.com or xyzfamilyhistory.wordpress.com, and you can publish as much as you want there in text and images kind of thing, and you never have to pay for it, and it never gets deleted. So if you're really trying to leave a legacy, that's great. But also, if you're building it in your own name, so there was a lady who used to catch the train from country Victoria into Melbourne every day, and she loved dogs, and she created a dog website at wordpress.com. And when she got this huge audience, she realized she could then migrate it to her own website. So if you create it in wordpress.com for free, you can then migrate it to wordpress.org. You know, it's a little bit fiddly, but you can do it and you don't lose any of your content. Now, the other option is you go to a platform like Wix, Weebly, or Squarespace, and they have the design tool and the website hosting available in one package at a fee per month. You stop paying the fee per month, your website disappears instantly, and you can't export it into another website program. So I get a little bit anxious about people choosing this as an option because I always like to be able to say I want to pick up my bag and go to somebody else if I don't like the service I'm receiving. But when you have something like this, you're kind of locked in to their platform, and it's a lot more expensive. So I'm not a huge fan of those, but if somebody's got that and they've, spent the money and they don't want to change, that's fine. We can still work with that. Obviously, it looks much more professional if you have your own website address or email address, sorry. So mine is sueellson@sueellson.com, or it could just be sue@sueellson.com. And it is best if the servers where your website is based is close to where you live, because most of your clients and people interested in your work are going to be close to where you are. But I had a walnut farmer from Nagambie in northern Victoria, and she wanted to sell her walnuts to China. So the only way to make sure her website would appear in China was to make sure it was hosted on the cloud rather than on a server. So she had to do something different to make sure that, she could bypass the geofencing of the Chinese government. So yeah, you need to think about those things. You definitely need to know how to back up your website. And I copy paste every link I create on the internet into archive.org so that, when that content is removed from wherever it is, people can still click on archive.org and see that. And at the end of the 30 minutes, if you want me to show you any of this, I'm happy to do that. But I want to get through the content first, if we possibly can. In 7 minutes, my goodness, we've got a lot to get through. So WordPress is a content management system. It's widely used. There's multiple themes or layouts that you can use. Start off with a free one. A page builder will help you have extra features that you can use. So I use Elementor as my page builder, and plugins allow you to put in contact forms and backup and security and so on. So you will need to learn some basics. It does update regularly and you can build it up over time. And then there's this article here on what to do before you upgrade or redesign your website. Now, these plugins are features that you add to your website. So the minimum you should have if you're using WordPress or any other platform is a backup feature, a security feature, a search engine optimization feature, and a caching feature. So what that means is the page is created and ready to be seen without just having to call it from the database that is the content management system. So it means that your website appears quicker when people visit it. You would install something like Google Sitekit to make sure you get all your Google Analytics, and Microsoft Clarity. So for anybody who uses Bing as their search engine, you're getting analytics from that as well. And then I also have a tool called Bing Submission, which lets Bing know whenever I've published new content so that I appear in Bing search results. Now, no, all the plugins I have are free, Philip, except the page builder, Elementor. I do pay for Elementor, but my clients don't because I pay a subscription that covers the cost of Elementor for all of their websites as well. So the layout of your website is called a theme or a template. And so, as I said, don't bother with a custom design as a starting point. Just start with something free that's in regular use and build up over time. Page builders will save you from having to manually code things. And I use WP Astra and one of the website templates for all of my clients. And we work with that. And we can change it later on if we need to, but we start off with, again, that minimum viable product. Now, before you start building the website and adding content in, you must change all your settings. So you want the WordPress or the back end of the website to know where you are, the local time, and make sure all your comments are approved, because basically spam robots just fill up all the comments. So you turn that off and make sure they're approved, and you install the different tools to measure your traffic, and you do not have admin as your username because the hackers will use that as a first attempt. Now, to search engine optimize your content, you really need to understand the importance of titles. So journalists write really sexy titles of articles, fast as rabbits is the speed of cars, or I don't know, whatever it is. They make some sexy title, but nobody's going to be looking at rabbits and cars in a title. So you really need to think about what will people put into a search query and make that the title of your page or post. So it's really important to be across that. Try and get at least 300 words on each piece of content that you produce, and put in headings, put in some bit of bold or bullet points or numbered lists, because that markup helps tell the robots that this is good quality content. Make sure you pop in your keywords and put links to other bits of content around your website. That's called interlinks, where you link to another page on your website. And if people are going to click on a link and go to another website, you want to make sure it opens in a new tab so that people don't leave your website. And also, if you do get content published anywhere else on the internet, you want to link to that on your website. So when the robots come in and visit your website, they'll see, oh, Sue's been published on all these other places, so Sue is therefore more important because she has more content on other websites. So I link to all of those. I can't reproduce the content, but I can link to all those other places on the internet, including all my social media profiles, any online directories or listings. Now, before I put any images on my website, and I try to use either my own images that I've taken myself because the internet has not seen them before, and I don't include buildings or people or designated sites if I can, because I don't want to be sued because I use somebody's image when I shouldn't have. So I take photos of nature because I figure the plant can't sue me, or the sea can't sue me. So I use a lot of those kind of images. Or I use images that I have from my canva.com subscription. I pay for a Canva subscription, so I can reuse those. But I mostly use Canva images on social media. I mostly use my own images on my own website. So before I put them on my website, I resize them so they're not just straight off the camera. I rename them with little dashes in the file name so the robots can see by the image file name what is in the image, and I can see it when I look at my computer. And also I right click on the image on a PC, and I add in the details of the image in the back end of the image, so that, again, before I put them on my website, all of that coding and massaging has been done. So most web developers do not do this. So that's why I'm saying they're not search engine optimizing. So what they do is they just put up the images, and then they charge you again to take them off, rename them, resize them, and label them all, when they should have built the website that way in the first place. So a lot of websites I've seen, they haven't had this done, and it's a really big issue. Do not copy your images off the internet. Getty Images found an image I had used, and they tried to charge me $2,000 for inappropriate use of their image. And I pleaded, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I did it. It was on an article about how to help people with their resume. I said, I'll delete it. I'll do whatever. They said, look, you have to pay us a fee. So I had to get my credit card out and pay them on the spot. I made sure it was Getty I was talking to, by the way. And I paid them the $200 and I took the slap on the wrist and says, I will never, ever do that again. So please do not use images off the internet. You will be found out. Not an image or content belonging to somebody else, and try and get a consistent quality and style. I use a similar size image for all of my images. And apparently the robots do not like AI images at this point in time. So if you're thinking about just doing AI stuff, it's not ideal. Now, the essential content every website should have is a home page, about page, a contact page, and a privacy policy page. That's what the search engines expect. And you would want to make sure that it is mobile friendly, because a lot of people will look at it on a phone and you need to have lots of white space or negative background, neutral space. And basically one sentence equals one paragraph, because, on a small screen, you can't have a 6-line paragraph. It's just going to be too hard to read. Images will help, but the search engines get confused if you put more than one video per page, but they love it if you have a video on every page. So you don't have to do it on every single page of your website, but if you've got a blog and you can also add a video to your blog article, that's going to help. Make sure you've got your contact details there and a contact form. I mean, do you trust anybody who doesn't say where they are based and there's no way of reaching them, even if it's just not an email? It's dodgy, isn't it? So make sure people know where you are. And I don't publish my personal address, but I do have my email and phone number all over the internet. And so I haven't had any issues with that to date, because my message is very clear and I make it, obvious that I'm friendly but professional, not personal. And I also recommend you produce a frequently asked questions page if you can do that. And I like having a sitemap where people can see everything that's on the website, and I link to that. You don't have to have that, but I kind of like it. Now, for social media, a minimum requirement would be LinkedIn, because if it's your own name website and you've got your own LinkedIn profile, both of those will help your brand and help people know who you are, and then you'll get 2 search results. So it's really good to have LinkedIn. And I also recommend YouTube for publishing all your videos, because then you can insert the videos on your website via that YouTube link. And I also recommend Facebook, so that you can get reviews, Facebook page, not Facebook profile, Facebook page. And then if people write reviews on Facebook, then those reviews will appear in Bing search results. Obviously, you want to link to all your profiles. The number of websites where they've forgotten to link to their YouTube channel or their Twitter X account or whatever is unbelievable. So make sure you're linking to everything. And think of your audience and where they are. So I was at Olinda on Monday, and there was a beautiful arts and crafts shop there, but they weren't on Pinterest, and they would have got a lot of traffic from Pinterest if they'd considered that particular social media. But again, you've got to be able to say, well, how much can I manage? What can I do with my time? And maybe not all of them are relevant. And an often forgotten one is your online directory listing. So here in Australia, there's Yellow Pages will give you a free website link. White Pages, True Local, your local council or local government. If you're part of a professional association, you can link to that. If you've written a book, you will have a legal deposit copy of the book in the National Library, which basically means it ends up here on Trove, and you can request lending rights. Go back to my book marketing webinar right now if you want to learn more about that. And also links. Like all the SEO people will tell you, it's all about links. So if I write an article and it's about finance, and I link to a reputable website about finance, which is high domain authority, I still get some value out of linking to that external place. Now, if that external place links back to me, that is called a backlink. And if I link to them and they link to me, that's called a reciprocal link. And they're obviously the best options. But try and get as many local ones. So if you're a little shop in Olinda and you link to all the other shops in Olinda, it's going to help all of you perform in Olinda search results and not be trying to not appear in any results. And it will also help you for the local area. So, there's no problem with sharing links to other local enterprises and similar people. I also get published on media. So I appeared in the Daily Mail this week. And so I've linked to that on my publications page and I've shared it on all my social media. So again, that helps because it's a high domain authority website. Even if you don't like the Daily Mail, it's good to be published on there. And look for aligned information or where you are mentioned. So sometimes I get quoted in the media, but there's no link to my website. I still link to that because my name is on there. And also, again, choose open in a new tab so people don't leave your website. Now, if you're going to go on the journey of redesigning an existing website, you need to make sure that you've got all the links of your old website and you've got them in a spreadsheet, and then what the new links are going to be if they're going to be changing. And you need to tell the search engines what was there is now here. If you don't do that, you're going to lose a lot of your Google ranking. So you need to set up those redirects. So that little process is discussed in that article. So Woody Allen says 80% of success is showing up. So thank you for showing up, either whether you're listening to the recording or live. I say make sure you take action, and I can definitely help you with this process. I charge $1.95 an hour for the first 5 hours and then $110 an hour therein after that. So on that article about how much should you pay for a website, if you're going to go with just a basic website, the minimum you're going to be charged by most providers is about $3,000 for a very, very basic website. But most websites are probably around the $10,000 mark. And let's face it, you have to earn a lot of money to get $10,000 back. So I prefer to help people with this process and do it over time at the level they're comfortable with them in charge. Because at the end of the day, you want to know what you're paying for and you want to be responsible, not for everything, but knowing what's happening on your behalf. You can see all my LinkedIn webinars and recordings on that link. And now I've got some more general webinars coming up. And my next one is on savvy social media strategy. You can register for that. All of these are free, no logins are required, and you're welcome to share the content with anybody you like. So that was the 15 things. My goodness, I can't believe we did that in 37 minutes. It is a bit over. Apologies for that. Please choose 3 things you would like to do in 3 hours from now. I'd love some comments in the chat. I will turn off the screen share shortly if you want me to show you anything. As you leave the webinar, there is a little feedback survey which asks those 3 questions. So if you can pop those in, that would be super helpful for me. And if you'd like to write a review, they're the links on Google, Facebook, and online. That's the link for the next event. And of course, you can follow me on social media. Again, that doesn't cost anything. I try not to put out anything more than 3 times a week, absolute maximum. Usually it's about 2 a week, because otherwise I think you'd get a bit sick of me. So yeah, there's a lot there. Julianne, oh, got several thank yous here. I appreciate you sharing so much information, which is so very helpful. Good. It takes me a lot of time to condense sort of a 2-day workshop into 37 minutes. But I've tried to give you what I think is the most important thing to learn. So we'll turn off the screen share and open up for any additional questions or comments. I like the pace of your presentation, covering a lot briefly, also the fact that recording's available and your generosity threaded through the session. Oh, thank you, Genevieve. That's lovely. Great insight into developing a website. Yes, I'll be working with Genevieve tomorrow, I think. I've got an email to reply to. So she did a LinkedIn workshop for me, which was fantastic. Yeah, look, you really have to be careful with websites because you can be ripped off very easily. You can spend a lot of money and it generates 0 results. And I'll just tell you this little brief story. One of my clients, she was performing really, really well in search results, but somehow this SEO company got under her skin. So she invited the SEO person to her office and me at the same time. I'm thinking, well, this is a bit rude. And anyway, this SEO person put up this tool on the screen to assess her website. And all these red flashing lights and terrible numbers appeared on the screen. And he convinced her that she should spend $500 a month on search engine optimization. She was one practitioner, being charged $500 a month. And then the strategy he suggested that would really work well for her, that he would work on, is he would get links to other practitioners in the local area to link to her website. Now, I ask you, what practitioner in the local area would link to another practitioner? But because she was so confused by all these red flashing lights and the $500, she was nearly ready to agree to it. So this is why I want you to understand what you're paying for, what the person's going to do. And another client, he was paying $1,100 a month for SEO. And this person produced a fabulous report with lots of colorful pie charts and said they were doing, this is what's happened as a result of them being involved. So then I got him to message them and say, what are you actually doing for this $1,100 a month? So apart from producing this fabulous report, the only thing they were doing was copying the links and putting it in a distribution service, which would take probably 30 seconds. And they were charging $1,100 a month. So it pays you as the owner of your content to understand what you're paying for. Don't just say, I don't understand it, I'll just pay the money. You need to understand what it is first. And then if you think it's worthwhile, away you go, pay for it. But unless you understand it, you really should not pay for it. So please just keep that in mind. And it's not a problem to pay for something if you're getting results. I have no issue with that. But you do need to make sure you understand what it is you're getting. The computer is smoking and trying to keep up with you. So thank you, Philip. Your time and energy. So much valuable information. Wow, that's lovely. I love teaching people who want to learn. That's why I'm committed to doing this, because and plus the fact it reminds me of what I know. It reminds me to think about these things to tell my clients. So it's all a lot of fun. So anybody want to raise their hand, unmute, ask a question, say something, get me to show you something, get me to show you the back end of my website in WordPress, I can show you that. Laurie, yes, go for it, Laurie.
Well, about a year ago, I contacted Sue because I needed help. So I noticed that some of you put down 0 as far as building your website, starting from scratch. Well, that's a bit like climbing Mount Everest. That's how I felt. But prior to climbing Mount Everest, I had to cross the Sahara Desert because I had this innate fear of computers as well. Because I was 78 at the time, starting all this from scratch. And I can remember I sat down for the first day with Sue with WordPress, and it was don't be overwhelmed with what you've heard today. Sue is an honest, generous, endless font of wisdom, practical wisdom. She knows what she's talking about. And she took me from 0 to humble hero, humble online hero. I've now got my own website. I've got my own videos. She said, listen, what? You can tell stories. Can you do that in a minute? And hence my magic minutes were born. And she's just an angel, and she's so trustworthy. Because I fell for the trap. I said, look, I'll give you a percentage of my books and stuff. She said, no, you'll pay me my professional fee, and that's that. So she's so honest as well as knowing her stuff. I couldn't recommend her highly enough. You have a look at my website, and Sue is responsible for all that and all it entails and all the links, and I'm just working through it now, and I'm in good hands.
Thank you, Laurie. My goodness, I'm just about in tears. The biggest thing about Laurie is we have worked together, and I video record our time together, and I write out instructions, and Laurie goes home and rewatches the videos and does all of this himself. Like, he is now editing his website. He adds all the content to it. He updates his plugins. He does all of it. He's now running webinars, which he's never done before. And, this is all within 12 months. So, yeah, we've come a long way. And sometimes I go to him in Box Hill, and sometimes he comes here in Canterbury, and sometimes we do stuff online or the phone or whatever.
Can I
And
just say? Can I just say one thing, Sue? This is critical.
yeah.
With this being overwhelmed by it all,
Mm,
being overwhelmed by it all. Only tackle one aspect at a time
yeah.
and get that right,
Mm,
and then move on to something else.
yeah, that's really,
Sometimes it took me, sometimes it takes a week for me to learn some jargon and discover it, like navigating between the little uh, links that appear at the top in the top bar. I used to see you weave magic, and you're here, you're there, you're everywhere. How did you do that? And then when I twigged to what you were doing, it became easy for me.
mm,
So control, manage, understand one aspect at a time.
yeah.
With my Magic Minute videos, it took me 6 months to learn how to record, buy the right camera, get the right audio guys to help me, write all the little checklists down. I could do it. I had the confidence to do it, but manage, edit, produce, lighting.
Yeah, he puts
And
subtitles on his videos. He does intros, outros, sound effects. He does all of it.
yes,
Yeah.
but I played it back to you.
Yeah.
I played it all back to you for your imprimatur.
Yeah.
And you gave me lots of feedback that they didn't.
Yeah.
So well beyond all this wonderful stuff you shared today.
Yep. I will show you the website back end in a moment, just so it doesn't overwhelm you. I've just been asked for Laurie's website URL. I've just popped that in the chat. How much did it cost Laurie to establish it and how are you using it now? So we've just done an hourly rate, but I've done lots of additional things with Laurie. It hasn't just been the website. It's been getting him into events. It's doing the webinars. There's been a whole lot. I haven't added up the total cost. I can definitely find that out and give you a summary. But when I charge an hourly rate, you only keep paying for as long as you feel comfortable with. So if you have 1 hour session, you don't like it, you don't ever have to do anything ever again, but you will get some value out of, that experience. There was a question here about what titles draw attention in search engines. So an SEO expert, and I'm not an SEO expert, but a lot of my content does appear in search results. So what I imagine is I think about what will the person be typing into a query to find me. So when I wrote a poem about domestic violence, I called my poem Domestic Violence Poem, like simple as that. And then what happens is if people click on that and they read it, then the robots say, well, that was obviously a good piece of content. And anytime somebody else types in domestic violence poem, we'll show that link. So some of your content will hit the mark and some of it won't. Now, if you were typing in plumber Melbourne, that's something that's high competition and high frequency. So trying to get your content to compete against plumber Melbourne is going to be really hard, like unless you've done really great SEO, you've got a really fantastic website and everybody does what they should when they get there. So, that's going to be very different. But yeah, it really depends on what you're trying to go for. So I realized, like I wrote a poem called The Service of Trust because there was I know a number of police officers, and a couple of years ago there was an accident where four police officers, I think, were killed all at the same time. And I was actually quite traumatized by that. And so I wrote this poem about, the value that the police provide us. It's a service of trust. We rely on them so that we can sleep safely at night. And so I called this poem The Service of Trust. But of course, nobody's going to type into Google service of trust. I mean, it's just not a query. So I've now actually changed that title of that poem to police poem so that if people are Googling police, they'll find it. So yeah, you've got to think about what are people going to be typing in. One of my clients is a health practitioner, and she wrote one on histamines, and that's her most popular thing. So it's a little bit obscure, but because it was specifically what people were looking for on that topic of histamine, she's got great value out of that. And when you find one of your pieces of content goes gangbusters, you then go back to that page and put as many bells and whistles and fabulous things on it as you can, because you know that lots of people are landing there. So yeah, that's a really important one. Any other questions before I show you the back end of WordPress? How do you manage copyright? Well, as I said, if people pinch my stuff, they pinch my stuff. I'm absolutely not going to worry about it. And the reason I don't worry about it is because tomorrow I'll be creating more content. And so good luck to you, bait. And I would rather be read than published. So what is the point of having a book that nobody ever read? My words haven't reached anybody. So I would rather be published and or read than just published. So yeah, Rita, question.
Hi, Sue. How are you? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry, I'm not on camera
That's all
today.
right. I'm good.
Um, this was very insightful. So one reason I do not have a website yet is purely because I'm on public directories and I'm on professional association as well. So this is where people will find me. But the catch is for me, my name is quite long and my profession is always about career related and transitioning. I do both career related, technical side, but I also work on the emotional side as well.
Yeah.
So it's a catch of me to blend all of them together. And also if someone is looking for issues with career related, so I've always delivered career life transition. So my business name is called Envision Coaching. I bought the domain, the business name in 2015. What happened? I didn't get the .com. The website domain wasn't available. So after doing some searching, I gave up. I really honestly gave up. It's been 7 years.
Yeah.
And I decided, okay, do I do it as careerlifetransition.com? This is something that I wanted because if you're looking for anything, you'll go on Google, you'll type, this is what they want, rather than putting my name. I do have a domain under my name, and for obvious reason, I never got, I don't use it because it's too long.
It doesn't matter how long the domain name is. You could be called zookeepersanonymous.com and still optimize it for career transition. The URL about 10, 15 years ago was really important. And that's why people were all trying to get realestate.com.au or something like that, because they knew that the URL was really significant. But what happened then was all the SEO experts, the black hat ones doing the dodgy things, they would just buy up all these domain names for every search query and put content on millions of websites, which was useless for users. So what the robots did is they said, all right, if there's a website, we are going to assess that website on multiple factors. So does it have an about page? Does it have a contact page? Does it have a privacy policy? Does it have reasonable content? Has it got old content? Has it got new content? Has it got social media? What are the social media profiles like? Et cetera, et cetera. It had all these other factors. So it doesn't matter whether it's a long one. When did you last type into a search engine, if you're going to your bank account, westpac.com.au? Nobody does that anymore. They just type Westpac and click the first link that comes up in their search query. So it really doesn't matter which URL you use. The reason I have chosen to use sueellson.com is if people want to come to my poetry, they want to come to my LinkedIn, they want to come to me digital mentoring, it doesn't matter. All of those are on my website, but all of it's related to me because I'm the provider of that service. Now, I have chosen not to be a coaching service with 20 other coaches operating under the same banner. That's of no benefit to me. I don't want staff. I don't want overheads. I don't want an office. I've just chosen it's just me. So what the other option you can do, and I'll just show you this because this is another website I've built for a local business and I have their permission to use it as an example. I'll just get out of here. Is if you went with a business name, so I've got 120 Ways Publishing, but this is a client, Spectrum Analysis, and the guy who runs this is a guy called Peter Buckingham. So if you want to see a business website, this is one I've created with all the sections I believe are important. Now, when you go to find out information about Peter Buckingham, there's this About Us page. And a lot of websites just put all the staff members on one page. And I've done that on the team page. Here's a picture of all the staff members, and you'll even see me on here because I'm their marketing consultant. But here is Peter Buckingham's own page, and there's Annabub's page and Van's page. And all of the staff members have their profile written in the same way, their qualifications, when they joined, what the qualification is, what they do at the business, what they like to do after hours, their LinkedIn profile, their email address, and the office phone number. So we've got that for all the employees. But if you heard that Peter Buckingham from Spectrum Analysis was the guy to speak to, you might just put Peter Buckingham into Google. So what's going to come up first is his LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is highly optimized for search queries. Oh, sorry, this is on Bing. There's his website page, which is about him. So I'll go to Google and do the same thing. You can see I Google myself occasionally to see what's happening. And here you can see in Google, his own page on his own website comes up first. So Rita, if you had ambitioncoaching.com.au or whatever one it is, it doesn't matter, and then you had your own page with your name in the URL. So if we click on this, you see the name is up here in the URL. And then Peter's got a longer profile because he's got more details. But you need to have a page for each individual staff member. So that way all of their names could, you know, potentially lead traffic to your website. Does that make sense?
Yes, they do. At the moment, I'm reviewing to rebrand whether I give up the name and purchase another business or keep the Envision Coaching as an umbrella and then have a different
sections,
subsection as a different business name. Because tomorrow, I'm not sure, you know, as we move forward, I offer a variety of services.
That's right.
And my services is not only career related, so it's specialized area. In certain area.
And like even Spectrum, you know, they do all these different things. So you can see there that there's a lot of different ones there as well. So it really doesn't matter. So long as it's logical when people land on the website and they understand where they've got to go, it doesn't matter what website URL you're using. But the reason I like using my own name is if you're the main provider of all of this, you could still come up for Career Coaching Melbourne with a page on your Rita website. You know,
What I find most of the time, I'm typing my name, you'll find me more than the business name. So
that's right.
I'm the brand. And I'm thinking, okay, do I keep it as my legacy? You know, my name, my brand, and this is how it is, my personal branding.
It just makes life so much easier. Now, your invoices could still go out under a business name because my invoices go out under 120 Ways Publishing. And I do have a basic website at 120wayspublishing.com. I'm actually working on that because it used to be at 120ways.com, but I'm a bit, you know, I like things to be the same, and I've decided, no, it has to be 120 Ways Publishing. So I'm moving everything across. So yeah, but I don't really need to have that secondary website. I could just do everything I'm doing just under my own name.
If you do have two websites, you've got to manage both of them, right?
And two sets of social media, and you know, it just creates more and more work.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons. I've got to reflect on that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And decide, because probably this year I need to get a website. Definitely I do.
Even if it's just one page and you say, I do this, this, and this, and you've got one page. So many years ago, I'll show you another example. I created a website for my daughter. And again, I have her permission to showcase this. So we go into the Wayback Machine and we have a look at it. 2016. And this is what you can start with, as simple as this. Archive.org is a bit sleepy today, it seems. Just so you know, it's a big picture on the front with a link to her LinkedIn profile and her email address. I think that was it. Oh no, it wasn't that one. No, that was when she must have put something on there. We'll try 2018. No, that's not it. Okay. Maybe mine wasn't indexed. There's another one. You might know this person. It's not showing. Sometimes these things don't work so well. So that's just an image, person's name, careers practitioner, counsellor and coach. She's a member of the CDAA and the Victorian Institute of Teaching, and there was her email address. There's her LinkedIn, there's an email link. That's it, one page. And you can start off with as little as that. Yeah. Yeah, there was something else in the chat. Going to have to leave, Julianne, thank you. All right, so as I said, I'll just are there any other questions you want to ask, or do you want me to just give you a quick overview of WordPress?
So do you mind if I I won't take up people's time. I just recently registered a domain name and Agile Growth Solutions was what I wanted. So when I went to GoDaddy, it was there, Agile Growth Solutions, no problem, registered the domain name. But I wanted agilegrowthsolutions.com.au, which I was able to get. And I was also able to get agilegrowthsolutions.au.
Yeah.
But after I did all that, I did a bit of research. I should have done my research earlier. And there is a company in America who is agilegrowthsolutions.com. So I thought, in my wisdom, well, if people search agilegrowthsolutions.com, they may get him because I haven't quite finished it in the URL what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
So I changed my business domain name to agilegrowthsolutions.au. But I wonder how do people take that? Because everyone is saying .com, but I've just got .au.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just Googled Agile Growth Solutions, and I can assure you I've never done that on my computer before. And here is the results. So it is showing Agile Work Solutions. So clearly, if people have typed in something similar, or the people who run this website, that's performing quite well. So, but the next one is a post on LinkedIn. This is an article. So actually, you really have no competition here in Australia for Agile Growth Solutions. So whether you have .com.au or .au or .net, it really doesn't matter.
Oh, that's encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but don't buy all of them. You only need one of them. So don't renew any of them that you're not going to use. Because we've all been sucked in by these domain name providers to buy multiple ones when we don't need them.
Yeah, great.
So that's their technique. So that's why I tell you don't buy any extra. And it doesn't matter if it was .com.au, .com.au, it doesn't matter which one you choose. The only difference is if it's .com.au, you have to have an ABN, Australian Business Number, to be able to register it. But it will tell the search engines that you are based in Australia, so then you're more likely to be found for that. But again, even if you do have agilegrowthsolutions.au, I would still recommend you have a page on your website with your name in the URL, so that if people Google your name, that page of the website comes up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be talking to you anyway, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Thanks, Sue.
That is the number one thing I learned today. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, don't buy extra domain names. And look, I'm guilty. I've bought extras. And I'll tell you a funny story. My first website is newcomersnetwork.com. And back in 2001, there wasn't Google search engines, right? You literally had to visit a specific website to get there. So I also purchased newcomersnetwork.com.au. And I set up a redirect. So anybody who typed in .com.au would be automatically redirected to the .com version. So then when I realized that the goalposts had changed, I didn't need to keep .com.au anymore and keep paying for it. So I stopped paying for it. Then what happened is somebody bought it. And I happened to do this when I was teaching at the CAE. So I looked at newcomersnetwork.com.au, and are you ready for this? There were adult sex toys on the website. I was so embarrassed. I could not believe it. I apologized profusely. But the funny thing was, the people thought that because it was an old website, it would automatically give them all this traffic and they would sell all their toys. Yeah, thanks, Genevieve. It's funny, isn't it? But of course, a few months later, I thought, I better check, but not in class. I'll check again. The website had vanished because clearly it had provided absolutely zero value to them. So nobody was literally typing in newcomersnetwork.com.au, so they missed out on the opportunity of selling their toys online by pinching my old domain name. So my domain name, SueEllson.com, ranks because I'm doing stuff on social media. I'm adding stuff to my blog. I'm being published on other websites. I'm doing things. So what happens is I can write a poem, then I can search for it in Google later that day and it will come up in search results because the Google robot has decided Sue updates her website frequently enough that we'll keep showing her content with everybody else. And so, yeah, and I also, as I've taught Laurie to do, every piece of content he adds to his website, he adds it to Google Business, and that tells the Google robot, yoo-hoo, I've just published content, and so they index it. So that's part of his process. So what we do, and I'll show you one of Laurie's posts. So if we go to Laurie's website, we go to the blog, and he's put out this little quote yesterday. So there's his image, there's his title, then that's the heading. Then we've got by Laurie Smart, which links to his about page. There's his little quote. And then we share it online on archive.org, Facebook, Google. So if we click on that link, it'll show you his little Google profile. Now that's not showing quite correctly. We just might have to check that, Laurie. Because that's his author profile. We want his Google business profile. No, we're still not getting
Now there's a classic example of it didn't quite work how I wanted it to work. And
yeah, we got to fix
that was something I was going to follow. You would have to press that one button. And yeah, so I didn't figure out how it didn't do what it normally does. So that's where Sue helps me.
Yeah. We discover little boo-boos along the way, and then we just fix them. But most of the work is done by Laurie himself. So here's the quote, right? So here's that little post. So that's the link we needed. So if we copy that link there, that's the link Laurie needed to put on his website. But this tells Google that Laurie has just put up more content. So yeah. So if we can try this effective leader quote. Don't know whether it will come up. Maybe not yet. No, there's probably too many of those. But yeah, like one of mine I know that comes up is the heart poem. And so there's my link, or my domestic violence poem. Because I've done this over a lengthy period of time, I've managed to optimize these. So people click on this and Google knows that they've scrolled through. There's the poem. I've got a little audio recording of me saying the poem. Then I've got some background and the story behind it and some little bits of feedback and so on and so forth. Yeah. All right. Well, we got to 109. So around 30 minutes. But, I'm happy if there's any other questions you would like me to answer. Or what's one thing you got out of today? I always find that really insightful.
I really appreciated the point of using WordPress rather than Wix or anything like that, because those are the natural go-tos because they seem to just package everything with a pretty bow. And so if you're wanting to maintain control, which was one of the main points that came through in today's conversation with you. It's so important to find ways to do that without handing over the control so easily. So thank you for
That's
sharing.
right. Yeah, you're most welcome, Alicia, and very perceptive of you to pick that up because people will sell you all sorts of stuff, and it's not necessarily in your best interests. And I don't have any conflict of interest. I don't get any money out of selling you WordPress or DDNS or Crazy Domains or Wix or Weebly or Squarespace. There's no commission happening anywhere. And you maintain control of it. So if at some point in Laurie's case, if he said, "Oh, so I'm, a bit sick of this," Laurie can just pick up and go to somebody else who does WordPress, because they can help him with that. And if he doesn't like DDNS, we can back up the website. We can choose another hosting provider. We can go to Crazy Domains and say, "Don't point to DDNS, point to that company instead." And then we've got the website at another location. So I'm an ex-banker, so it's all about risk. And I don't want any of my clients to be in a situation where there's risk. So the other thing I do regularly, without Laurie knowing it, is I do backups myself on my computer of his website. But there's also backups in the system as well. And DDNS also have backups. So we know that if ever he does get hacked, we just kill the website and then just upload a backup and we're off and running again. Yeah. Cool. All right. I think I did promise. Oh, Robin, did you have a question? You've just popped up on the screen. No, just to see you. Nice to see you. All right. I'll just quickly show you the back end of my website because I think that will perhaps allay some concerns that you may have. So this is my website. This is the WordPress menu up the top here. So I'm signed into my account at the moment. And when you go to a website designer, what they're offering you is they know which themes to use, which plugins to use, and so on. So first of all, you start off with your theme. So you can see in my website, my theme is Astra, and there's a backup theme there. I don't really need to have that there, but that's my theme, and I can customize it, and I can customize my menus. There's settings, and in my general settings, I talk about the name of my website, the tagline, and because of certain plugins I've got, well, it automatically tells you the date and time and the country, it's important that I tell them that. But it will also work on my links. So all my links are designed with /blog and then the title of the post rather than numbers and dates because that makes my content look old. So I edit that little setting. There's lots of other little settings I do with comments as in discussion. I turn off, allow people to submit comments because it's just the robots that spam you. So all my comments, if they do manage to get through, have to be approved. And here is the list of plugins that I have battle tested and work. So whenever I see this update, I press update. So these are the ones that I have installed on my website. Oh, that one's not active. So it's not a lot, but they're very carefully chosen. And then when you add these plugins to your menu, you get these choices down the side. So most of the time you will be, oops, I've got to wait for that to finish. So just wait for that to finish updating. I often set this to automatically update. Just allow that to finish. Right. So what was I going to show you? Pages. So these are all the pages of my website. So I can go in here and edit these. You have to scroll over it to see it. So I'm very particular about my structure. And then all my posts, which is in the blog section. So these are all the good titles to make sure that people find it. And then the good thing about things that goes in your blog post is you can add a category. So these are all the categories of content that I have on my website. And there's, a couple of pages of those. So yeah, that's it. It's pretty straightforward. It's not complicated. The other thing is when you use a proprietary system like Wix or Weebly or Squarespace, you can only use the plugins or the apps, they sometimes call them. I'll just have a sip. The apps that they include Whereas with WordPress, you can add in others. But then the problem is you can get a bit excited and think, oh, there must be a plugin for that, and add 64 plugins to your website, and then the website goes slow. So we want to restrict it to just what we're trying to achieve. And again, that's why if you work with someone, you understand what a plugin is, you make sure it does what it needs to do. And if you look at putting in a new plugin, before you add a plugin in, you make sure that it's had lots of installations and it's been updated recently. So something that was created yesterday and has got 4 votes from their friends, you would not put that plugin on your website. You know, that would be dodgy. So you make sure that the plugins you choose are, you know, robust. Cool. All right, I think I better call it. An hour and 15 minutes. The perfectionist who gives up, 80% is good enough. Start simply and keep refreshing, adding, expanding over time. Yes, Genevieve, you are so right. Like, we don't get to this age and this capability if we're not prepared to accept 80%. Like, if we expected it to be perfect, we would never get here. We've just got to give it a crack. And, you know, when we grew up, we were sent outside in the backyard with grass and sticks. And that was it. There was nothing else. So we had to make do. So, you know, let's just adopt that kind of approach with developing a website. Start with the sticks and you'd be amazed at, you know, what you can develop over time. And just start really, really small, really, really basic, low cost. I mean, if you want to do free, you can just go to wordpress.com, something.wordpress.com, build it all there, play around with it, make all your mistakes, you know, make typing mistakes. I don't care if there's typing mistakes. I'm reading a book now that's got all these full stops missing. You know, like it's irritating, like you would not believe. And it was edited. I'm thinking, well, who edited this? A robot forgot all the full stops. You know, and every time I see one, it irritates me, and I've stopped reading the damn book. And I know it's ridiculous, but if there's a mistake in my book, I want it to be my mistake. You know, just let it be my mistake. And because there's mistakes in every book that I've read. Not one book have I read has there not been mistakes in it. And I've worked with international arrivals for many years. Their English is terrible in most cases. I still manage to understand what they're saying. So it doesn't matter if there's mistakes in your content. It really doesn't matter. But people tell me when they read my books, they can hear my voice because it is my voice. And I'm fine with that. You know, it's conversational English. It's not perfect grammar because, you know, I want to have a conversation with the reader and I want to share what I've learned and try and help them avoid the same mistakes. So, yeah, that's what it's about. We've all got something to share. So thank you for your participation. Great to have you with us for whatever length of time. I look forward to seeing you in another webinar or online, and make the most of the resources that are sent and the books, and have an amazing day. Yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
Thanks,
Have a
Sue.
good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.